Hello, all you badasses out there in badass fantasy baseball land. This is the Sunday evening live stream. My name is Rudy, and I'm your host here at Badass Fantasy Baseball. Are you fucking excited yet? If you are not excited yet, then maybe you're in the wrong. You're having the wrong hobby here. It's that time. It is that time. At this time of this live stream, I won't be a spoiler, but the U.S. and Cuba are in the World Baseball Classic, duking it out in the third inning. And anyway, it's been very exciting. I hope everybody out there is having a good time with fantasy baseball. This is the absolute one of the most exciting times to be playing fantasy sports of any kind is right before the draft. I think many of you probably have already drafted, maybe a lot. You may even be finished at this point. And you may be thinking about in-season goals and strategies. And I'm willing to talk about that on the live stream today. So if you're on YouTube and you'll send me a hello out there in YouTube land, I'd appreciate it, and I'll sure send a hi back to you. This podcast is coming to you from Alvin, Texas, just south of Houston, Texas. Alvin, Texas is the hometown of Nolan Ryan and Nathan Eovaldi. I have a segment coming up during end season that'll be interesting. I hope for you guys to be a part of, because I hope you join the podcast league and get involved every Sunday night as we do a live drop in with people who are playing in the podcast league. So I think we're gonna have some fun with that for sure. For sure. So get out there and get on the chat and give me some kind of idea about what you're doing, what you're interested in doing, what success you've had with your mock drafting. What have you already joined some leagues? Give me some feedback on how your drafts have went. If you're still in the mock drafting mode, then let me know how that's going as well. Oh boy. This is interesting here. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is my great production team again. My team of three here is not the swiftest of all production teams. I am here to tell you. But I'm almost there now. There we go. He got his badass going. Me, myself, and I. Yes, that is what we know to be my production team. Sometimes badass, sometimes fucked up. I'm just saying it like it is. If you're curious about where I'm at in my processes in fantasy baseball, I have not drafted. I have done a ton of mock drafting from different positions throughout the 12 team standard league draft. So I've drafted at the so far like everywhere, the third pick, maybe the sixth pick, ninth pick. I've stayed away from the very edge. I'll maybe do an 11th position or position 2 for the draft. But the main thing is out there, folks, if you have not drafted in your league yet, And if you haven't drafted in your league yet, well, then utilize those mock drafting platforms that all the major fantasy baseball platforms like Yahoo, ESPN, CBS, many, many others out there all have some sort of mock drafting capability. So go out there and utilize that. I mean, I know in the Yahoo Fantasy app, it's absolutely free. So it's good to go out there and exercise. As I've always said, exercise, train as you fight. You know, I'm an Army vet, and it's very relatable to my experience. And train in the conditions that you will actually engage in whatever activity it is that you're training on. And so in this case, you're just training and practicing over and over your whatever your draft tools are with that mock drafting, and not just doing it ad hoc. I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense to use whatever list you use. I know every time I go into mock draft, I do it with intent to get something, you know, get training out of it. So I do make notes when I draft from certain positions what the results of those drafts were. So let me show you. I know a lot of people talk about stuff, but let me show you how I do that. And I'm going to take my BadAzz face off the screen, I think. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. Oh, there we go. Goodbye. All right. So I'm going to get, as soon as I get tuned in on what the hell I'm doing here. There we go. How sweet it is. Oh, man. Let's see. Okay. Let me get my proverbial shit together here. I need to move this a little bit. So it's going to make the screen, I think, a little bit smaller, but you guys will get the point. There we go. Now, okay. I feel pretty good about that. So these are, and if you've tuned in before, you know I use, I have a Mac, so I use this numbers app, and it basically brings up a spreadsheet program like Excel. But don't get me started on technical shit, because I don't know much about it. Hell, I don't even know if Excel's still out there. No, I know it's out there, but still. So it's similar to that. At least that's what I found. Anyway, these are, if you've listened to our BadAzz sessions on our website at badazzsports.com, BadAzz always being with two Z's. Go out there and go to a website and check those out. There's presentation slides there. And if you just want to read through some presentation slides, or if you want to watch those segments, you can go to YouTube or listen to them on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. So this list basically represents a tiers list, and I have tabs up here so when I did a mock draft, I went to so I can go back and refer if I wanted to. This is a little new thing I've taken a little further than just pen and paper, or just kind of going into mock drafts with a list, but not actually taking any notes. So basically, when I went in and did these mock drafts, this was from the third pick. I put this like pinkish color. It was supposed to be light red, but that's where my draft pick. I was the third pick, and that's the pick in the first round, the first tier I have, who I picked. So I could go refer back to that. I can make a copy of it and redraft or mock draft from that third position and see if there's trends. I know the trend that you get generally when I go back and I'm thinking about how I merge this data to make sense. It's just really a quick view, and by doing the exercise, you start learning about in your tiers based on whatever position you are in the draft, what the potential is for your rounds. So this was a third pick I had. So you see, I drafted Julio Rodriguez in the first. The 9th pick, Julio Rodriguez is not going to be around, but I do have a plan. If I'm a later pick in the first round, I've targeted Shohei Ohtani as my primary target. Of course, all these guys here above, Mookie Betts, I'm planning on if I have a good draft, he could drop to the 9th, but that'd be close. And of course, these other guys will go before the 9th. So anyway, that's how it helps. I'm trying to give you a visual here, and here's a 4th pick draft, and there I got Mookie Betts. Again, 3rd pick, I got Julio. If you follow me here, and I think it may be lagging behind some. Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, Julio. Now it shows that Shohei Ohtani when in the 9th, when I had the 9th pick again, it's showing there that's who I got in the first round. So in the 9th pick, because it's different than this 3rd pick and 4th pick, it kind of was a different draft. Now you can scroll down and see in the 2nd round, Bobby Witt Jr. And by the way, these color codes are just, if you haven't listened into previous sessions, previous live streams, or even our special editions that are posted out there on YouTube and on those audio platforms, they indicate targets in each tier, player targets, and there's red lines. Again, if you go back and watch and listen to some of those episodes, this stuff will be all perfectly clear. And if it's a tool that helps you, as I've always said, be better fantasy player, that's what I strive to do here. And to have you badaasses join the BadAzz community out here. So come on in and into the chat room and say, hey, because I'm here live right now. You got Rudy, host of the BadAzz Fantasy Baseball Podcast, a Yahoo Diamond level player, humble brag, but I'm here to help you. I'm typing in hello. Hello, BadAzz. And that's you. You folks that are out there listening, that's a big hello out to you. So say a big hello back to me. Okay, back to the list. This is my tiers list. Again, this was the 9th pick in a mock draft. 2nd round, Bobby Witt. 3rd round, Michael Harris. So these blue, I'm sorry I didn't explain it, those blue tabs by the name there, Bobby Witt. And then in the 3rd round there, Michael Harris. These are the people I drafted in that mock draft at the 9th pick. And like all Yahoo standard leagues for the drafts, it's a snake draft. So if you're not familiar with the snake draft, then Google it. But it's basically, if you're the first pick in the first round, you're going to be the last pick in the 2nd round. So that's a long wait. If you're the 2nd pick in the first round, you're going to be the 11th pick in the 2nd round, and on and on and on. But that's a snake draft. So, and this is the result of this mock. And my point is if all I did was jack around and do some mock drafts, and I don't take any, invest a little more in that effort, if I'm going to sit there for 30 minutes or 45 minutes or however long it takes, an hour to do the draft. And by the way, I don't know if you know this, if you've been out there, because I'm not going to assume you know this. If you're out there drafting, or mock drafting, I should say, and you get out there and you get in the draft room, and it's all of a sudden it's all going too fast. Think about that job you ever had when you were a teenager or at some point in your life that you pretty much knew in the first couple of days that was not your dream job for various reasons. But more importantly, you just weren't fit for that, You just weren't fit for it. That's my Burger King experience, one of my first early jobs that I absolutely hated, and I couldn't keep up with them damn sandwich making lines. It was just ridiculous. It went so fast that I had a lifetime appreciation, and I still do today, for people who work like in restaurants, and especially those folks in the back that we never see. It's like the production people for these great shows or entertainment that you watch through music or video or TV or whatever. Those people in the back and the people in the front will always tell you, even off screen or off the record, so that they're the backbone of the operation. So it was incredibly humbling experience. It was too fast. Every time I hit that screen back then, this was in the 80s, so it just kept filling up with orders, and it was just like frightening. It's like going to a horror movie, seeing Saw for the first time or something. Anyway, so going into a mock draft for the first time in Yahoo may be a little daunting, so just keep in mind that they are going on 20-second timers for their picks. I think it's 20 or 30. Damn, now I forgot. Whatever it's a lot less. And when you draft in your regular league, have no fear, because the standard league is going to give you a minute per pick, and more than likely, let's hope that when you're actually drafting in a league, although I've had this happen in some friends and family league where somebody would miss the draft and it'll auto draft, but you'll see more of that when you are mock drafting sometimes, especially if you're doing it in some off hours, really early in the morning, really late at night. A lot more proportion, a greater percentage of the mock drafters that you will join in will be robots, and they'll just pick the next one in line, the next draft pick player that comes up. And that's, you want to avoid that. You want to get in drafts with as many human beings as you can. But when you get into those mock drafts, it really does go extremely fast. And for new people playing, don't be taken back by that. And actually flip the script on this. Is if you do mock drafting enough in those mock drafts that give you about half the time to make the decisions for each draft pick, it's going to make you exercise that process better. And you should be able, if you feel like you can completely go through the draft with mock draft with the tools that you have, the draft tools that you have, and do it more than once, and the more sample you have, obviously, the better, to the point where you do it all the way down through the last round. If you're going to invest in the whole in this case, 23-round process. Because if you constantly lose focus in the middle rounds, or something throws a little bit of a curve into your draft, don't just throw your hands up. Use it for a learning point, and use your list right here as you're going along, and make a note. Mark something, type something in there that this is, or mark that you didn't get any of the people that were available, or in a sudden, somebody picked somebody suddenly and earlier than you noted. Just anything that might throw a curve off. And you want to identify those areas of the draft. See how you responded to it. And this is a perfect example. I had a 9th pick again. We're in this 9th pick of my tiers list. And if you'll see, I don't want to go, this red line is called a positional red line. That's what Rudy, because it's a part of backdrafting, which is another episode, is a special edition. Go back and watch that, and it'll make a lot of sense. You can pause this or come back and watch this part later after you've checked out that special edition. This will make a lot of sense. But this was my target for SP1, my starting pitcher, my number one starting pitcher. This is my target in my drafts. That's the one I want, and I'm targeting him in the 5th round. He has been in some drafts being drafted in the earliest 6th round, but my target and strategy was the 5th round to draft my first starting pitcher. It didn't happen. Let me see. Where did I end up getting? Okay. I ended up selecting a relief pitcher there instead. You can see by that light blue. Well, it's like behind a little bit. Right here, this light blue right here, indicating that I took the draft selection right there at the 5th round. Now, how I responded to that, I can go back and easily see and then recall whether that reaction to that, did my draft tools work? Because these things are going to happen during a draft. Not everything's going to plot out exactly how you determine it. But I did take quickly, when I saw within the in-draft decision making, when I saw that Luis Castillo had come off the board, there was a red flag here. This would have been red for Jordan Romano. And what that tells me, when there's just a red block cell right here, this is filled with red. And what that does, it tells me, it flags that my target for the number one relief pitcher, my number is coming up, because it gives me some flexibility. And in this case, it helped me flag that my target for relief pitcher one's coming up soon. And in this case, it was Raisel Iglesias in round 6. So I turned a situation, a curve in the draft, a curve, into using my tools to make good decisions on the fly, even when faced with 20, 30-second draft pick timers. So I really feel, after exercising these processes and going back and listening to some of these other sessions, even if you've already drafted in your other leagues, go back and watch some of the stuff I've put out, and go join another league and utilize these tools. and then hit me back and let me know if that helped you, especially if you're new to fantasy baseball. Whether you've done fantasy football or any other sport, if you are new to fantasy baseball, you should roll your sleeves up and really do a lot of study, because if you ask fantasy baseball players, managers out there like me, like other people in our BadAzz fantasy baseball community, it's a different animal. We are talking, you're talking about 22 to 25 weeks of competition against opponents in head-to-head competition. And of course, if you're in roto, you're in competition every day. And baseball is an everyday fantasy sport, unlike baseball where you have Thursday, Sunday, Monday, very abbreviated schedules on those other than Sunday. Baseball's not like that. You know, they'll be off. A few teams will be off on a Thursday. Some of them will be off on a Monday, what have you. But the rest of the days, there's always baseball being played for 6 months straight. So if you're going to invest 6 months and have some fun with fantasy baseball, why not put some effort into it, be competitive, and win? I like having fun. Fun is fun. But in fantasy baseball, fun and winning combined, that's funner. It just is. So all you badasses out there, I'm sure you're watching the World Baseball Classic. If you love baseball, of course, March Madness is in full force. So back to my list. Again, this is how I can go back, even if I don't remember doing this draft, and easily see, oh, okay, I made that move, stayed on track, and drafted O'Neal Cruz because I already attacked this. Now, what I've lost is I haven't drafted a starting pitcher as of yet in this draft, which I was picking from the 9th position. So I was able to flex my draft strategy and in round 7 pick Alek Manoah as somebody who I did target. He was my first backup. Now, if you see down here, Felix Bautista, you see that color? I just used that faded red color to identify the player I am targeting that I believe is going to be, their player rank is going to be lower. So if I miss my SP1, number 1 target of Luis Castillo, that my second target, if available, was going to be Alek Manoah. Now, if not at that point, then I was probably hypothetically going to go down to see where my SP2 was going to be, and then assess whether do I want that guy to be my number 1, or do I need to look in these next 2 rounds, the next round before him, and is there anybody available that I really want and I see not? So I would probably shift my strategy a little bit and target heavily Luis Severino in the 9th round. Okay, so anyway, I'm a big believer in utilizing some tools to go into drafting and competing in fantasy baseball. I've always said that's up to you, though. If you want to go into it willy-nilly and just get on your phone, in the middle of whatever you're doing, scratching your balls and eating some Crunch Munch on the couch, go for it. And I will tell you, there's some players out there, I think, that feel strong enough about their capabilities that they feel like they can do that. And if you can do that, great. I can't. And and I enjoy the process, to be honest with you. I enjoy the process of being I'm struggling here for a second here. I love playing the general manager role early in the season, prior to the season, and then throughout as well. And if you're, let me go to, hold on, let me go to what I was going to show y'all. Okay, that's goodbye right here. If you didn't tune in to a previous session when I talked about this, this is my organizational chart. And I use that in a previous episode, a special edition. I think it's the one I did on draft strategies, where I introduced the concept of trying to define, especially to beginners or people that just starting out, that have maybe never played fantasy baseball, or maybe never thought of it from this perspective. But this being preseason with the draft coming up, it's fun and exciting because this is when you're wearing your general manager hat. Of course, you wear two hats in fantasy baseball throughout the season, general manager and manager. And that may sound goofy or whatever, but I'm trying to emphasize the point of getting to something that may help you. Okay, so that's you. In this case, that's my goofy ass picture up there. Of me screaming at yelling at the clouds like an old man. But I am the general manager of my fantasy baseball teams. If you'll follow clockwise on my organizational chart, you'll see that my analytics department. And as I've always said, a good general manager needs a good team. And that's in reality with fantasy baseball. While I think there's people that are sharp enough and know fantasy baseball enough to pick up their phone and draft right now on a moment's notice and do very well, that's not most people. I know people that can recite stats or use some notes, maybe some assist here and there. There's good technology. These guys that know how to use it can pull up anything. But there's a wealth of information that you can pull from so many sources. There are so many categories of statistical data in baseball. How much as a general manager you want to take on that role is up to you. I mean, you may want to set and you enjoy the meticulous statistical data and using that and thinking how to apply it to fantasy baseball and use statistical research or develop some of your own tools, original tools. There's some players that don't want to do that much statistical diving in, so to speak. I'm a general manager like that, and I need an analytics department. I realized a few years ago, about 2019, that after playing my first 2 years, I wasn't competing at a level I felt like was adequate at all. Although I'd had pretty good winning percentages. If you watch the previous special edition, I went into that and how to set goals for your season as a general manager, setting winning percentage goals and not focusing as much on where you end up placing. Because if you consistently, in Yahoo Fantasy Baseball, certainly, if you play consistently at a high level, winning percentage level, you'll get your wins. It's kind of like fantasy baseball players and analyzing them. There are some studs out there that year after year are going to produce at the same level. So my analytics department is who I lean on for information. And I have three kind of core. There's many out there sources and many some others that I didn't annotate or I'd illustrate here, but the three major ones are really is CBS Fantasy Baseball. That team out there, their podcast provides great analytical data, and their analysts are exceptional. So you get really good analysis from them. You have to invest some time in that to listen or watch their podcast. But if you do have time to invest, I think it'll, in the end, save you a whole lot of time, because research and statistical research is very time consuming. I'm not knocking it. Again, you may love doing that. So go take your BadAzz and dive into all the statistical reference platforms out there. Baseball Reference, Baseball Savant, StatCast, yada, 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 on and on. Anyway, so my analytics department is the good folks at CBS Fantasy Baseball, the good folks at Fantasy Pros, who provide, again, very professional, good analysis of the whole spectrum of fantasy baseball. Whatever piece of the pie you want to know about, they cover it. And I'm talking about like different league formats, different scoring formats, different drafting, dynasty. They talk about redraft. They talk about, just numerous roto, head-to-head, every variation. They have relevant information for that. Where I primarily stay in that lane of head-to-head categories. I enjoy head-to-head, and I say it over and over again because we have playoffs, and I love playoffs. Playoffs. Thanks, Jim Moore. Anyway, this is my team, though. I need help. Can't do it alone. That wouldn't be no damn fun anyway. So thanks out there to the great folks out there that provide a wealth of information to help me be competitive and perform at a very high level. Wouldn't be able to do it without these guys. If you follow in a clockwise direction, you'll see strategies and implementation department. And I really tried to make that sound as damn professional and as possible. I totally made that shit up, though, because that's me, myself, and I. So basically the flow is general manager. I'm going to utilize and lean on my analytics team for some analysis and timely information. And I'm going to use my BadAzz Fantasy Baseball tools and merge those two entities together, and then I call Yahoo Fantasy Baseball the governing body. So the governing body is, if you're in a public league, what I mean by that is if you draft in a public league and you're playing in a public league, you have to follow the rules of Yahoo Fantasy Baseball, how they set that league up to play. Same if you're in a private league, friends and family league, what have you, that commissioner is going to be the governing body, set the league scoring and drafting. And my point is, and then you get back up at the top back here and you have the good old, then you put your manager hat on, and there's a whole nother process, which is in-season play. But prior to the season, I mean, this is definitely the flow and the team that helps me perform at a high level. Hopefully what will help you with the BadAzz Fantasy Baseball program is I don't pretend to sit here and provide information that mimics or mirrors my analytics department. I seek to define and blend my strategies and my thoughts and processes to blend it with this information within the governing body, whatever the rules are of the game, the league that I'm in, and then wear those hats, those two hats, the general manager and manager hat. Certainly manager hat more prominently once the end season, because you'll be in charge of setting your rosters. Yay. Oh, the joy. Okay, if you've listened, if you've, I guess, tuned in, what have you, to the BadAzz Fantasy Baseball podcast previously, you will know, and there I am. Hey, what the hell's going on, folks? Hey, shoot me a chat in the chat box. You can wait until there's a commercial or something on the U.S. versus Cuba semifinal going on in Miami, Florida. Boy, that'd be a hell of a place to be right now. But we're in Alvin, Texas. And I'm Rudy Rudolph, your host of the BadAzz Fantasy Baseball podcast. Okay, now I'm going to switch to, because we are striving to be a professional podcast that delivers information that'll help you with your fantasy league. Not just help you, but help you be a badass and help you win. If you watch the previous special edition, go back there and watch that. If you don't know how to set a goal for the season ahead, you don't know where to start, you don't know where to what kind of goals to have if you're new to fantasy baseball or relatively new, we'll go back to that last special edition that's posted out there. So I'm going to, oh shit, hold on. Okay, I'm getting there, folks. Be patient with me. Ba-ba-ba-boom. All right, I'm going to pull this up and show you real quick. Okay, you badass fantasy baseballers out there. Let me pull this screen up. Like my me, myself, and I production team is not the fastest in the world. That's for sure. But we strive to be accurate. Okay, like I told you before, if you're just interested in playing any fantasy baseball, whether it's on Yahoo, CBS, ESPN, Fantrax, Underdog, blah, 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 blah. If you want to do daily fantasy, if you want to do season long, which that's what I primarily focus on and talk about, is playing season long throughout the entire baseball season. I hope this information will help. If you want to just have fun and be competitive somewhat, that's cool. I love playing fantasy baseball for fun. I also found that I like to delve into it a little more and be even more hopefully competitive. And I started following a few years back, and I think it was I played my first league of fantasy baseball in 2017. I started to become serious and really start thinking, hey, I want to do this better in 2019. And that's pretty easy to see when you look at the screen, is why I wanted to show you. This is in Yahoo Fantasy, you can go to your profile, and if you've played fantasy football, you probably know this already and have seen it, but you can see this performance level, and this is an overview. You can see at the header, there's a history, the number of trophies you've won, and trophies can be in any position in your league, 1 through 3. So if you finish first, second, third in any previous Yahoo Fantasy Baseball League, then those trophies would show up there, and these are medals, and I'm less familiar with those. I don't pay much attention to those, but you get medals for certain things. I don't know. But the meat and potatoes is right here. So this is basically a chart of my performance rating, and the performance ratings, again, if you're interested in your performance levels and achieving or taking on a personal challenge, maybe it's not enough just to compete with others head-to-head in a league or in Roto. I also might suggest to compete with yourself, challenge yourself. And if you listen to that previous special edition, you can get some really good, solid help on helping you kind of shape that first initial goal of what you want to target. And it's mostly to do with winning percentage. But you have to, if you're going to strive for that, you have to kind of know generally that you have to compete at a high level if you want to keep moving up. In Yahoo Fantasy Baseball, as with all the other Yahoo Fantasy sports, they have performance ratings that are indicated in a number of ways. And this one in particular on this page is a chart. And you can see, I told you my first 2 years, here's 2017. I was in that bronze area. And the levels, the performance levels are bronze, lowest, highest. Bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and diamond. Now, so the first 2 years, well, in the first year, I really sucked. I told y'all many times I finished 11th out of 12 teams in my first year. In 2018, I mean, I still wasn't taking much serious. I was still in the bronze level. So I said to hell with that, and I started getting serious. And in 2019, you'll see this steep rise here and a steady incline to my ultimate goal, which my goal really didn't become a real solid goal to make diamond, which that's where I'm at now, the highest level, and a humble brag, top 10% right there. So I did not make that a goal preseason until 2020, 2021. After the 2021 season, when I finished for the second year in a row at the platinum level, just short of diamond, I made a concerted effort to go into the 2022 season with the goal of by the end of the year being rated at the diamond level. And I did that, made that goal to see if I could do it. Could I compete at that in the top 10% of all Yahoo Fantasy Baseball players? Which, by the way, the last demographic stat is 15 million plus fantasy baseball players out there. So if you want to look at your performance once you start, or if you've already had a history in fantasy sports in Yahoo, we'll go to that your profile and look at the overview, and you can see, and I'll encourage you, look at my overall win percentage, 58.1%, and I'm a diamond level player. You do not have to, contrary to what you might think, that you'd have to crush it at some 75, 80% clip to be one of the better players. That's not true. But this is more a tale, and the special edition, again, I'm referencing to, goes into this more, of how small the margins are between winning and losing in fantasy baseball. They are very small. Very small. And that's why if you ever listen to a fantasy baseball podcast, or certainly if you've listened or watched any of mine, especially the first couple ones I did, because I admit I sucked at it, and I'm still working hard to be a badass at the production side of all this shit. But my point was, the margins are very small between winning and losing, and the margins are small between winning and being really, really good. really at a super high level. So to take that leap, you have to win those small margins again. And that's why I go into a lot of depth and breadth of strategy and thinking about what I'm going to do, because achieving these performance levels do not come without effort. You can play on the side of luck and you can win some leagues. I've seen it happen. I have a friend that played fantasy baseball in Yahoo the first year he ever played. He was fantastic. I mean, he was in the top 2 or 3, 4 in the league all year, in a good league of some tough players. So the margins are small between winning and losing, and winning and being a champion. So I think the highest win percentage I had during a season was, let's see, that would have been 20. I think it was 2019. I had like a 670 win percentage. Last year I had a 640 something win percentage. But anyway, I go more in depth in that special edition. But that'll just let you know if you want to track that information. Well, it's available to you to do. All you got to do is reach out and touch it. Okay, now I'm back on this. That's crazy. Okay, now it's wanting to jack around with me here. There we go. Okay, and let me note, we're back on the Yahoo Fantasy Baseball page, and just to remind you, and you can see it right here, the BadAzz Fantasy Baseball Podcast League is out there for you to join. So we're going to live draft on Sunday night, March 26th at 7 p.m. Central Time. That is next week. We will draft right here on the podcast. So go to our website at badazzsports.com, and there's a registration link. You click on that, you're in the league. Welcome aboard, and you can be a part of the podcast, the live stream on next Sunday night at 7 p.m. Okay. So if you look, I would venture to say, and the U.S. and Cuba are in the fifth inning. I'm really thinking draft right now. I'm calling innings rounds. Let me just peek into mock drafts live here and see. Look at this. I mean, talk about, so this time of night, you're not going to have any trouble getting into a mock draft in fantasy. I mean, these little silhouettes are people filling up the draft queues. So these rooms are filling up. There's 12 team mocks, 10, and they go down to 8. And they also separate between head-to-head and roto in this type header here where it says type. So, yeah, if you want to get on and do some mock drafting tonight, it appears it's hot and heavy. Probably will be up to about 10 Central Time. It might start slowing down by then, but it's pretty hot and heavy. So get into these mock drafts and be a part. Use that to help you become a better fantasy player. I mean, that's the whole reason why you use it. Plus, it's fun. Hell, the mock draft is fun because if you fuck something up and pick the wrong goddamn player or something, you can say, "Oh shit!" But you know what? It's not your real draft. I mean, you can't. I mean, it doesn't affect anything except right then. And even if you make a mistake in draft, just take a mental note that you would have made that move and continue your draft as if you did take that person. You know, don't let it ruin your whole mock draft. Your training, you're trying to hone your draft tool. So don't stop drafting out of frustration. Keep going and work the back end of your drafts as much as the front, as I talk about in my special edition back drafting. So we haven't had the call out today about there are 11 days before OFD. And you folks that have come in here before and been a part of the BadAzz Fantasy Baseball podcast before know that OFD is opening fucking day. OFD. We got 11 days. So it's everybody say 11 days to OFD. 11 days to OFD. Opening fucking day. We're almost there. Hey, I wanted to tell you, in case I forgot, behind me that I have spotlighted back here, because I told you in my intro early on that I not only love fantasy baseball, I love baseball. I love watching baseball. I love following players, teams, everything about baseball. It's still in my heart America's favorite pastime. It sure is mine. One of mine. That and music. But behind me, or I should say back here, because it's opposite, are those cards that I have a 3-card set back there. And I don't think you're going to be able to see that well enough. So let me grab it. I'm going to show you this because I wanted you to see this. Did you see my BadAzz Fantasy Baseball logo? My shirt? There you go. Be a badass. There you go. You can win one of these shirts sometime during end season. I'll let you know more about that later. Let me see if you can see this. Let me try to put this up here. There we go. I think you can probably see this. Okay. So if you look at that card where it says pick the game. So these cards, these pick the game cards come out in during the season. I think it was Series 1 of Topps. It might have been Series 2, but it may have been both. I think it was Series 1, though. I don't know if they're doing that this year, but they did it in previous years. And if they do and you get a pack of cards out there and you find these cards in your packs that pick the game, don't throw those damn things away. Don't just toss them and don't use them. Because I used to think that at first, but you need to use these in season. If you get that card in a pack, in this case it was Mookie Betts, you'll scratch off the back of that card. Let me see here. Let me flip this over. And you'll see on the back of this card, I know this is terrible. If I had a bit. See the back of this card, though? I could have done it probably a different way, high tech. You'll scratch this off, and you'll see this code, like in that scratch off, what starts with the H there, whatever. So you follow the directions down here on the back of that card, and you go to this Topps website, and you put that code in from the back of that card. And what you got to do to win is pick a game that player on the front of the card, in this case Mookie Betts, what game you think during the season he'll hit a home run. So you you type that date in on the website, and it becomes your entry. In this case, I've played this I think I had like 3 of these cards last year. But the third one was a charm, because Mookie Betts, I'll never forget that, hit a home run. I think it was in the very last inning, in his last at bat, and I watched it. And what I got, Topps sends you this card right here, this winner card, and this was a 1 of 237. So I'm guessing that 237 people guessed during the season a date that Mookie Betts hit a home run, if that makes sense. But that's the card they sent me. So if you've ever played that, pick the game, and never won, and wondered what you get if you pick the game, that's what you get. And it's a cool card. So I wanted to tell you because I thought if I played this a long time and never won, I'd probably quit playing. But this is what you're playing for. And ironically, and here, let me show you the back of this. The back of the card on that winner card. It says congratulations or something. You're the badassest dude we've ever fucking seen. Okay, but I think you'll see that it's numbered at the top there to 237, I think, or something like that. But it was a cool card. Now I'll show you this third card because, oops, upside down. This is wild because this don't happen, I don't think. This is a Topps Now card because it just so happened that the night he hit this home run that won me this winner card, Topps Now produced this card of him hitting that home run. Isn't that crazy? So just out of happenstance, because I like to go to Topps Now every once in a while and buy some of their certain specialty cards. But I wanted to share that with you. You guys out here listening to, you badasses out here listening, watching the live stream this evening, check in and say hello. Shoot me your address and I'll send you, tell me your favorite player or favorite team, and I'll send you a BadAzz fantasy baseball pack of, or shoot you out some cards, a few rookie cards. Let me know who you like, and as a token of my thanks for you tuning in, I'll send it out to you. If you don't catch that during the live stream and you're watching this on a later time, go to Twitter to Roto, ROTO _Rudy, RUDY, and shoot me a message out that way if you have any questions about your upcoming draft, specific players. Shoot me a line there at Twitter. And if you want me to send you my BadAzz picks, card picks to you, send me a message with your address and your favorite team or player, and I'll hook you right up. But I thought I'd share that Mookie Betts story. So go out there and play that game and pick those games and give it a shot. I never thought I'd ever hit that. I couldn't believe it. It was so fun. I couldn't believe I was actually watching it too. And then there was a card produced. It was wild, and that's exactly why I've had that framed up. Just so I could tell that damn story to y'all. Okay, so let's talk some turkey about, player-specific news. I know I don't have to tell you this. Everybody in the world knows Jose Altuve broke his thumb during the World Baseball Classic in his game, in Venezuela's game against the United States, in which the United States won, knocked out the Venezuelans and handed them their first and only loss of the World Baseball Classic. Yeah, he got hit by a pitch, hit him hard. He winced a little bit. Trainer came out, went to the dugout, and went out of the game just like that. I have seen Jose Altuve get hit many, many times. But that's just the way the luck of the draw is sometimes. If it hits you right in the right place, it can do damage. And I believe he is out 8 to 10 weeks or something like that. I'm not sure. So, as I've said before, another good reason, hopefully you haven't drafted a lot of your drafts yet. And for a lot of people, that's not true. And a lot of people that identify second base as a position with scarcity probably drafted Jose Altuve very high, vested a very high draft pick in him. And for you BadAzz fancy baseball managers out there, if you drafted already and you drafted Jose Altuve, I'm sorry. Hey, if you drafted Edwin Diaz, I'm sorry. But sorry ain't going to help you win no damn games in season. So watch the live streams on Sunday night. Take in any special editions that I upload at your favorite streaming platform. Don't give up. I have lost number one picks and still won championships. It's happened. It has happened. And if you play long enough in fantasy baseball, it will happen. Injuries happen. Bad luck happens in baseball. Again, the margins are small in real baseball, and the margins are equally really small in fantasy baseball. It's kind of a mirror image almost. So if you've lost one of those two players already on your, just don't freak out. That's why, at least in the Yahoo Fantasy platform, you have 4 IL slots, roster slots in a standard league. Some leagues have more that have private leagues, and the commissioner adds more, less, what have you. But in a standard league, you have four slots of any position you can put in there, but they have to be on the injured list officially. You can't just put willy-nilly anybody in that. So I'm saying that for people who haven't played much or not at all before. Once they get placed on that injury list, then you can shoot them in the slot. And one of the bad things, I just wanted to throw this out because I remember it from the season, from playing season after season, is what's wild is you'll see a player, one of your good players or something, invariably will have an injury, and they go out and they miss game after game after game, and you can't put them in an IL slot because the team, for whatever reason, and I'm sure they have reasons why they wait to put people on IL, but sometimes they'll wait, and that's kind of frustrating. But I think in the case of Altuve and Edwin Diaz, I'm sure they're already, I didn't check, but I'm sure they're listed on the IL, and therefore you can move them into your IL slot on your rosters wherever you have those two guys, especially in Edwin Diaz's case because he's lost for the season. Again, Jose Altuve, you're looking at like 8 to 10 weeks. So you'll want to put them quickly in the IL slot and get on the waiver wire and look for players, in Altuve's case, a couple months that you'll be able to hopefully have somebody at second base that can get off to a good hot start early in the season, and then just when Jose Altuve comes back, pull him off the IL and put him on your roster. So I hope that's helpful to you out there. Okay, I wanted to discuss, which I'm going to have to break away on the screen again. Yeah, let's see here. There we go. All right, I'm going to go back to my my list here, and I'm going to go to is that it? Risers. Okay, in a previous special edition, just the most recent, I talked about risers, what they were, what a profile of a riser looks like, and it's really just establishing some of your primary targets, but they may not be people you end up targeting because it always depends on draft flow, and then also other factors, and there's many factors, and I talk about that in previous episodes that I've put out. And I'll go back to my master list here real quick just to give you a little background. Okay, I'm going to have to scroll over for you to see this. Okay, there you go. Okay, so if you look at the header, it doesn't make any sense because it's all crammed together. I want to make these columns small, but you'll see various red and green colors, and I'm sure you can equate that green is good and red's not. So these are visuals for me because I'm a visual guy, and I always feel like after doing this for a few years now, I feel like going with this visual format is easier for me when I'm in the actual draft. It's just easier for me to operate than maybe a bunch of numbers or something. It's just easy and quick. These tiers I have set up with priorities. But I wanted to tell you these other factors. So remember I told you about the organizational chart and how I lean on the analytics department to provide a wealth of information, because these guys in these professional podcasts save you a ton of time with their research and analysis. But to go beyond that, you apply other factors. Let me back up just a second here, because I feel like this is important to hit on. Let me back this up just a second here. Okay. Oops. That's the wrong one. Here. Okay. To give some context. Before I got to that previous screen, that tiers list, before I developed a strategy and developed other factors, my factors, into my player rankings, my draft board, you need a base somewhere, a base player ranking system, unless you just want to completely do it yourself. I mean, if you're into that part of it where you just say, no, I'm gonna do my own list, well, you still got to get a list somewhere. Even if you download a MLB roster of every player in the league. But I suggest, and I really appreciate and send a big thank you out to Fantasy Pros. They have, in my opinion, one of the better. It's just easy base player rankings. I mean, there's a wealth of data here. And again, I can't thank you enough out there, Fantasy Pros. This is doesn't cost you a dime, and you go out here and make sure you thank the folks and go check their podcast out and like it and stuff. I think that's a way you can tip them and thank them for what they do. But this is a list, a power draft ranking list, but it has many, many uses. But you have to start out, and we'll come back to this, you have to start out with some kind of base list, and I definitely use this one. So we'll come back to that. So once I have that base list, like that I just showed you from Fantasy Pros, then I get, well, if I can pull it up, then I get to the point where I have start putting in my factors, my other factors. The special edition I had just previous to this one is out there. You can check it out. This first category here is called risers, and that's, you'd have to go back, and I'd have to go over the whole special edition block. But if you go back there and watch that, you'll see what the profile is of what I consider risers. But in a general sense, I wanted certain features in players predominantly, and if they fit that criteria, then they make that riser category and therefore become a high priority in my drafts. The next factor I put in here is the lineup position. This is based on some projections, so it's not set in stone, but you can go back and look at it and see how things change. But these are projections based on MLB.com site, where they list and project, experts project rosters, at least. And of course, this is going to become very solid information and easily attained once the season starts. But it's also good to know who, and to attain this for my factor was that they need to be in the first 4 batting positions. When I did this exercise, I've got to just tell you this because it's just interesting to me. So these lineup position means they bat 1 through 4 typically in their lineups. Now look in the first tier. These are the top fantasy baseball experts and fantasy baseball managers who are drafting out there now believe to be the best 12 fantasy players. You could argue about some that fall below a line, above a line, whatever. But of these that are on this list, and they're all hitters, they're all batters. There's only one that is not batting in the 1 through 4 slot, and that's Kyle Tucker. Ain't that some bullshit? Boy, if I was Kyle Tucker his age, and I'd be showing him that in arbitration. Look, I'm one of the 12 best fantasy players, and I don't even bat 1 through 4. I just thought that was interesting. He's a definite outlier to that because as you see, you keep scrolling down, these are pitchers. That's why they're blank. But you'll see Green, if they're a batter this second round, and it takes you a while. Let me see how far you got to go down before you hit a batter. It's not 1 through 4. Still haven't got there. Still not. We're almost to that's Altuve. He's going to go down. We're to round 5. And we're going to get to somebody. There it is. We had to go down to round 5, Ozzie Albies, before we could find another batter in my draft list that did not bat 1 through 4. I just thought that was interesting. I know it's maybe somewhat trivial, but it was interesting, and it only developed by going through this exercise of using these factors. Another positive factor is a team. I always believe they should be on a good team. I could go in more depth, but I'm just going to kind of highlight it. This next one is a meaningful one to me, and it's a contract year. When I show green here, it means the player's entering their contract year. That's a big deal. The next one over is a powers speed rating that is actually something that I'm going to merge or purge out of the other factors because it really is overlapping the riser profile that I've chosen to make a little bit more in depth than just saying I want to highlight players that have power and speed. I want to go a little bit more into that, and that's what effectually replaced that other factor. So the next one over is important. These are players that I highlighted were in the top 50 of all players in the major leagues last year that were the top 50 in games played, so posted. The 50 players that posted in the most games during the season last year. That's important to me, too, to see some durability, at least on the batter side, people that posted. And you can see a couple people in your top tier. Trey Turner is in the top 50. Aaron Judge in games played, and that hadn't always been in the past. And Freddie Freeman, at least in your first tier. These are guys top 50 in games played. This year was because of some of the new rule changes. I added a factor of lefty, and I just wanted to have a quick visual when I'm doing assessments and moving players up and down throughout this tiers list. Be conscious that they're left-handed, and if I want to, I can go more in depth about what left-handers and why they're projected to have really good years because of the shift going away this season. Of course, the shift can still be found tonight on the World Baseball Classic because they're still shifting their asses off. I like that the shift's going away. I personally, I like it. I think you will too, and I think you're going to love the pitch clock. I personally love the pitch clock. I've been waiting for this for a while. I love the pitch clock. I actually call it a game clock because I think there's so many slow-ass batters out there, and they have to be in the box ready to hit with 8 seconds or more left on that 20 or 15-second clock, depending on whether runners are on base or not. And if that's not confusing enough, you're going to have to start watching some games. But you should, if you have not watched any games yet, or you have and didn't pay attention. I didn't even have to pay attention. I could see immediately when I started watching spring training games how effective the clock was at speeding up the game. You can just see it. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. Go watch. Matter of fact, you could go watch the World Baseball Classic tonight and just get that tempo in your mind, and then go watch a spring training game. And it's just remarkable, the difference. But anyway, the red categories are ones you don't want a lot of, or you want to at least be knowledgeable when you're assessing and analyzing players, that there's some flags. And the first one being injury. And that's a broad category, but for me, it's generally, I've always said that I hate one of the terms or the syndrome of if healthy. I don't want to hear that, if healthy. Hell, everybody, we base all our projections and stuff, the experts out there that make these player rankings and draft rankings, they always deal with the median outcome of that player. Rarely are there injury factors because those factors are so variable. So to me, to simplify it, is a player is either injured, not injured, or coming back from an injury. And that's where and if they're injured or coming back from an injury, and if they're coming back from an injury and they have yet to play or perform at a level previous to that injury, I still flag them. So if they have a current injury, no matter, even if it's a minor, so to speak, especially if it's a pitcher having some injury problems already and we haven't even started the season. So this is a big red flag here I want to be aware of on players. And of course, in the first tier, we already have a couple red flags, and that's Freddie Freeman had, I think, a minor injury. I think it was a groin or a hamstring or something like that. I don't know. No, it could be, soft tissue could last for a while. And then Vladdy Guerrero, I got him flagged. Another red flag is a new contract and or a new team in the next column over. I think this is a negative just in general. I want to be aware of players just signing new contracts, and especially players signing new contracts and going to a new team. I always feel like that has a little bit of a negative factor, only because from the human aspect that you can have millions of dollars, and I don't know what that feels like to have, but imagining having millions of dollars or making $60,000 a year or something. If you take on a new job in a new location, you still got to go through all the moves. If you got kids, you got to transfer them in different schools. And even if you have a lot of money, I'm sure that all makes all that shit a lot easier. But there's still things that you have to factor in. These guys are going to a different city, different grocery store, different liquor store, different place to pick up your cigarettes if you're Mickey Mantle. But my point is, I think it has somewhat of a negative effect. I think it could be proven, through some statistical data and projections, and you could probably. I just want to be aware of that. I tend to think that they have not one of their better years that first year with a new team. Now that second year, different story. The last red flag area I have is games played less than 122. I think it was 122, wasn't it? Yeah, 122. And that is, I arbitrarily made that cutoff based on that's 3/4 of the season. So if you played less than 75% of the season, then I wanted to red flag that. And as you can see in the top tier, you have Ronald Acuna Jr., and then you don't see any for a while, but they're on here. And this overall list is really, this tiers list is really what I lean on when I go into the draft room and I'm drafting. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about risers that I talked about before. These are some people that I'm really highly, in most cases, highly targeting and have considered them all risers. So, and you'll notice that at the top of the list, these are all well-known, pretty well-known names, especially if you listen to fantasy baseball podcasts, watch MLB Network, or just generally follow baseball. You've heard these names. But as you go down this list, these are still people that I highly regard that you'll be able to pick up in the middle to later rounds. And these are still people, these are people that have a high priority because these are people I feel like will be available and risers that meet that criteria that I believe that they're going to greatly exceed their projections, their expectations. And you don't need many of those. And I talked about that in the previous special edition. You don't need a ton of those studs like that the differential between their preseason rankings and draft rankings now and what they end up performing at the end of the season. So I have some folks here that present, and they also come with somewhat heightened risk levels too, obviously. And then I have more risers that I've classified kind of in a different group, like for various reasons under these other factors that we talked about in that previous screen. But you'll see a lot of these players, and you've heard of most of them as well. But I will tell you, somebody that's hit this list fairly new is Jared Schuster of the Atlanta Braves. Now, I don't know if he's going to make the roster, or this guy, Dylan Dodd. They're both starting pitchers, both lefties. And so where was that guy again? Let me highlight him again for y'all. There he is, Jared Schuster and Dodd. Those two pitchers, you probably, and from what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing, is they have a shot, one of them possibly, of getting a starting rotation slot with the Atlanta Braves. Why is that news about a fifth starter? Well, because he's a young fifth starter that, if he gets the gig, will be pitching for one of the best teams in baseball with an unknown ceiling at this point because they're young. He's a riser. He's young. He's powerful. And he's durable. Well, we don't know if he's durable. That's the other criteria of a pitcher. So a lot of risk with that, but somebody you want to keep on your watch. And someone that you may not have seen on list or heard about yet. But definitely somebody you want to look up and kind of follow and see what the Atlanta Braves do. And those are, and another one I had on the list, he may or may not stay on the list. All these people, even that aren't highlighted below, are still risers on my list, just to a lesser degree. James Outman for the Dodgers, I think he's probably going to drop. I mean, it just depends if guys like that make it the roster or get sent down to the minor leagues. And if they get sent down to the minors, then you transition to your in-season strategy for the waiver wire, and you kind of keep a watchful eye on some of these young players. But the list goes on down. Of course, Andrew Painter, you heard the news. If you unless you were in a coma the last couple weeks, he was injured. I think it was elbow injury. So that was bad news for one really good riser there. Let me see who else here. You may not have heard of Josh Young. He came up from the minors late last year with the Rangers. He's making a lot of people. You may not have heard of Matt Mervis, the Chicago Cubs first baseman. Not sure if he's going to make the roster either. But some of these other names, I mean, again, they may end up in the minors, but these are people I wanted to put to some degree as a riser. And again, I'd have to go into a lot more in depth. If you go back and watch that edition, I go into that a lot more. So what do we do with all this stuff? Well, we take these tools and we get our asses out there and do some mock drafting. Practice. Because that's what, that's what's going to help you become better. And remember, you on the organizational chart are the general manager, and you are a badass. Okay, folks. Well, this is about to conclude this Sunday's edition of the BadAzz Fantasy Baseball live stream exclusively on YouTube. Please go to the website at badazzsports.com and you'll find presentation slides. That's the home also of some of my video. My latest episodes are posted there as well in one place. And there's a registration link for the BadAzz Fantasy Baseball Podcast League. So go to the website and click on register and join the podcast league and prepare for your draft this Sunday. I'll drop a couple other pre-recorded episodes. I may live stream a couple special editions through the week, especially as we get closer to opening day. How many days we got left? 11 days to OFD. 11 days to OFD. If you look down at the scroll at the bottom of the screen, you'll see one of my favorite sayings, mottos, whatever, about fantasy baseball and watching the BadAzz Fantasy Baseball podcast. Because if you don't, or you don't put any effort into it, if you suck, that's your fault. I'll catch you guys next week on the live stream. Check me out on all your favorite social media platforms. Send me your address out on one of those platforms and let me know your favorite player and team, and I'll send you out some baseball cards. This is Rudy Rudolph, host of the BadAzz Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Check me out on all those formats. Good luck in all your leagues, and keep drafting your ass off. Goodbye, everybody.